Hi everyone. Good morning. Good evening. This is Rajkumar Sukumar. I have close to 21 years of industry experience. I'm currently working as a lead data and AI engineering for AT&T services. Right? Today I want to talk about the critical or urgent challenges that every organization facing every day, right, while building the AI or implementing AI and their machine learning pipelines. So before I get into my topic, I would like to thank DevSecOps for providing me opportunity to speak in this conference in front of you. Okay. Let me begin my topic with a simple recent example. All right. A couple of months before, right, a large retail company in the US, right, they deployed an automated visual quality inspection model, right. And once after the deployment, right, everything works fine, and whatever they expected, right, they got the outcome. Everything works fine. People are happy. But after several weeks, right, the product defects are skyrocketing. Right, the customers are not the customers are complaining a lot of defects. Right, the business leaders are getting investigation. They start the investigation into that, and then the team discovered, right, someone has intentionally uploaded a manipulated images into the training data, right. It's a very small poisoning, right, I can say very small poisoning into the training data, but that compromised a multi-millionaire dollar system. But the problem is nobody noticed. That is the worst part. Nobody noticed this once I deployed this model into the CDC CI/CD pipeline, right? Because the pipeline doesn't have any control over the AI security, right? And this story is not only for retail, right? It's for everywhere, right? It starts from telecom, starts from insurance, it starts from banking, right? The DevOps pipeline have no control over AI security, right? We need to have some kind of strong DevSecOps, right? That's what we are going to discuss. Okay, let me move to the next slide. Okay, nowadays deploying AI systems into the production is very fast. It's not even taking weeks or months, right? It's days, right? They plan, they implement in a days, right? But the speed comes with a couple of issues. One is the data poisoning. That's what we discussed in the previous slide. And then we have adversarial attacks. We have prompt injection. We have ethical risk. We have privacy leaks. So these are some of the issues. It's come bundled with the fast deployment of the AI. Okay. So in 2023, right, a big financial institution, right, passed its loan approval system. They implemented, they deployed using AI, right, for the loan approval, but they stopped within few weeks, right? Because it is not it is keep on rejecting the loan application for a different sector of people, right? When they tried to investigate the issue, they found there was no issues, but the problem is the model was trained with a particular set of people, right? So it is not able to recognize the different set of peoples, right? So that's what it's like a bias, right? That's the issue, right? So again, that's a need. You need to build a AI native DevSecOps framework. Okay, let me talk about AI native DevSecOps framework. Right, it comes with different layers. Right, we have data injection, we have privacy preserving training, we have automated security testing, we have governance, ethical governance gates, we have protected interference, and finally we have to do continuous monitoring. Right, we should not left after deployment. Right? We should monitor completely. Right, why it's, for example, why its approval, why it's denying the loan, for example, loan application, right? We need to do monitoring for several months at least, right? Until the product become very stable. Okay. So let me break this slide into small chunks. Okay. Secure data injection, right? How do we implement this, right? The data and the trust starts with the data injection, right? We should properly inject the data whichever we trusted. And then we need to implement the cryptographic verification of the data sources. And then we need to detect the real-time anomaly and automatic P2I detection and redaction. If it is having any P2I values, for example, email ID, personal information, right, that we need to redact, that we need to mask that. We need to enable airbag or in audit logs. We need to track the data lineage. Again, just wanted to underline what is data lineage. One of the enterprise, again, happened in US, right? They traced a model failure back to a single corrupted CSV file. right? The issue is, right, because of the lineage, right? Nobody knows where exactly the CSV file comes from, right? So it should come from a trusted source, but because of the corrupted file, they had a model failure. Okay, so let me go to the next one. That's a privacy preserving training. So nowadays, companies, social media companies, or telecom, or financial companies, right? They're dealing with sensitive data, right? So in terms of audit the privacy, we need to apply multiple privacy techniques. For example, we need to apply differential privacy, which is something like adding noise during the training so that the model cannot memorize the individuals, right? It's like a collaboration, not an individual kind of training. And then it's like second level will be like federated training, federated learning. So the data stays at the source, only the model updates the travel, right? So for example, think of it as a learning from 10 hospitals without ever moving patient data, right? And then third one will be like homomorphic encryption, training and encrypted data. Nobody sees, just a plain text, right? So for example, I can say usually in the banks, right, they used to do the fraud detection. Once they do the fraud detection, they cannot share the real data, right? It also encrypted data, and then they help each other to do the fraud detection, right? Only they need to share the patterns, right? Instead of sharing the real or the raw customer data, right? So that's the power of privacy of the preserving AI. Okay, let me move to the next one. Okay, and in terms of security testing in the machine learning pipelines, we bring CI/CD automation, right, with multiple layers of testing. For example, adversarial testing that will generate the hostile inputs. After that, it will do the static code analysis and then the model hardening. Right, if there was any defensive things, it will validate. It will do the input validation. Right, and further, we have to implement dependency scanning for the ML frameworks. So these stages ensures the issues. If there was any issues, that will be caught before the deployment. Right? We can able to catch the issues. We can able to fix it. Right? So we will avoid those breaches, right, or the customer complaints. The next one. Okay, next one is protecting inference endpoints, right? Defense against real-time threats. So after we deploy the model, right, we should secure by the model extraction or the bots in inference or the prompt injection. And there are multiple ways. One of the common ways is setting up the DevOps security protocol. DevOps we used to call as 10 security protocol, right? So that will detect the bots, that detect the SQL injection, like that. Some of which it will parse each request coming from the outside, and then it will parse the request and understand is it coming from the trust source. It's not from it should not be coming from the bots, right? And then it will filter those requests, try to understand what is the request header, right? It should not be any SQL injection or it should not be any bad request. Yeah, so that's how we'll protect the endpoints. Okay, let me go to the next one. All right, so next one is governance by design, right? Ethical AI checkpoints. So now security is not only security is enough. We must ethics and accountability into the pipelines, right? We need to add the governance gates, the pre-training ethical review, and we should do the bias testing across demographic groups, right? We should not do the testing in a isolated group of the demographics. We should do across demographics, right? And then for sometimes at least we should have the human in the loop approval, right? Yeah, again I can tell one of the example in one of the recent deployment, right? The bias test revealed the model performed 20% worse for a minority group, right? That is data scientist who developed the model did not know why it went wrong. The business doesn't know, but the problem is it's all about the training data, right? The reason is they did not provide the enough training data for those minority groups. That's the issue. Okay. Okay. Now we can have policy as a code, or we can have the blockchain audit trials. To scale governance, we can codify policies. We can have version controlled rules, and then we should implement automated complaints validation, like enforcement across every ML pipeline. And once we implement the blockchain, it will extend the immutable audit logs. No one can able to tamper that. And it's have the transparent lineage, right? So some where exactly the source data, it's coming from, right? It should have the transparent lineage. And then regulator ready evidence, it have the proper evidence, right? So that's what we build the trust across the company. We know from where exactly the data is coming, the training data is coming, and we should have the strong, nobody can able to tamper the audit logs, who's going to modify, everything will be recorded. And then regulator ready evidence. Whenever there was a question from the federal, we know how to answer. We should have the answer is ready. Okay, the next one. Okay, because of this, recently a healthcare company implemented the above strategy. And after that, so they implement this DevSecOps framework, whatever we discussed in the previous slide, right? So now the results, they have zero security incidents, and they have much faster deployments, right, through automated CI/CD or automated compliance pipelines. And then they can successfully complete the audits like in a HIPAA or SOC, the process. And then they do have higher trust among the healthcare systems. This explains once we deploy on the DevSecOps AI innovation, right, with multiple safeguard, so we can able to achieve the fruit. Okay, next one. So now, what are the strategies we can do for every organization based on the couple of the real-time success stories? We should start with AI risk assessment, and then we should integrate adversarial and bias testing into CI/CD, and we should have human in the loop for at least the model become very stable. And we need to implement policy as a code, enable cross-functional collaboration, deploy runtime monitoring for inference, and then maintain immutable audit trails so nobody can tamper the audit trails. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, so what are the key takeaways, right? This security and ethics cannot be bolted onto AI systems. They must be embedded, right? Yes, they must be extended, right? This is how we build AI. That is, it should be secure, it should be private, it should be fair, trustworthy, transparency, and then ready for the production at scale. Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, you can let me know. Thank you.